for joining us. Good morning to all of you in the U.S. and the ones here in Israel. Thank you for joining us today. This session will introduce you to BARD, the Bi-national Agricultural Research and Development Fund, for those of you who are interested in applying for funding. And I'm here today with the fund's Executive Director, Professor Kapulnik.
Good morning to you in the U.S. and good afternoon to the Israelis.
Our Chaim Katz is also here.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
And we'll start with Yoram, who will introduce the fund's mission, the different research areas, the proposal selection process.
Okay. Now it's easier to talk. So I'm very happy that you join us to this webinar, and I'm very happy to be part of this webinar, which will share more light on the activity of BARD and how really to apply to research fund here. And I will introduce the foundation first, and then I will be more specific about the application for research with research proposals. So BARD was established 40 years ago by the two governments, by the Israeli government, the American government, with the mission to support research activity that will contribute to both countries. Now, we found BARD is a fund's mission-oriented, strategic, and applied research. And the idea behind this collaboration is that each proposal will have two principal investigators, one from each country, and jointly they will write a proposal and will apply to BARD. The scientists should be affiliated with public institutions or private institutions with a non-profit private institution. BARD is covering all areas of agriculture, almost every topic. And on top of it, we have on our portfolio several other programs that later on, at the end of our presentation, Judith will shade more light to that. So first of all, it's very important to remember that I'm going to shed more light on the research proposal, and research proposals are expected to deal with agricultural issues or problems and yield tangible results that could be implemented within a reasonable time frame after completion of the project. This statement, this mission statement, is being stated along the evaluation process, starting with the ad hoc reviewers, through the panels and the TAC members. And in a few minutes, you'll understand who are the people that help us to evaluate the proposal. Now, where our money comes from, we have that endowment that was established by the two governments about 40 years ago. We have around $110 million then, and we appreciate the interest rate of that endowment, together with the supplemental amount that are being given by each government in the sum of $1 million. So altogether, we have around $7 million for our portfolio. Now, just recently, we finished the evaluation, 40 years of achievement. This was an external review, international committee evaluate the foundation, and I'm encouraging you to look into the metrics that of this evaluation, which you can find on our website, and I'm going just to mention a few of them. First of all, the allocation of the budget is, this is the figure on the left inside of your screen. You can see that actually the scientists decide to split the money almost 50-50 between themselves to carry the work. On the right-hand side, you see the numbers on the map represent number of projects that have been funded by BARD in different states. So actually we are covering, we have representatives all over the US, coming from different states. I think we have only 1 or 2 states with which we don't have representatives, and here I encourage all of you to apply to BARD. More on the metrics, you can see that over the years, over the 40 years, BARD was actually invested more than $300 million in more than 1,300 proposals. Our success rate, which is very important, probably you ask yourself, is it worthwhile? Our success rate is around 26%, which relatively is very high. Again, I'm encouraging you to look on 40 years achievements in our site. You'll be able to see not just economical outcome, you'll see a lot of environmentals and social contribution of BARD over the years. Now, what is our priority area? Now, we are welcoming a proposal which will deal with production under dry climate condition, protection against biotic and abiotic stresses of plants and animals, water quality and quantity. And this issue of water scarcity is common to Israel and many states in the US. Food quality, safety, and security, and functional genomics and proteomics. In a matter of fact, all the omics are invited as long as they are being used in order to contribute to agriculture or to find a mechanism that will help agriculture. Sensor robotics and technology, or what we call it today, precision agriculture, is welcome. At least these topics are here for the last 10 years, so we're encouraging them. Bioenergy system. And here, I just want to mention that we are welcoming any topics which deals with COVID-19 and would have any relevance to agriculture, will contribute to the activity of agriculture, and will have a scientific merit that will stand in the standards of our foundation. Now, all those priorities are being evaluated in different panels. We have professional panels, the review panels. We have animal production, animal health, crop production, crop health, and food quality, safety, and security, environmental, soil, water, renewable resources. Here, the environment, it is related to the environment, which is related to agricultural activity. It's not a general ecological work. We are dealing, or we are concentrating on agriculture. And then the next one is agricultural innovation and engineering. And sometimes we have enough proposal to set up a panel on ag economy, but any proposal which is relevant to economy, what is worthwhile to do and where. We have a lot of projects, successful projects in economy, so they are welcome as well. Now, how we treat your proposal. When you are writing a proposal, we walk them through these different stages. First of all, they are being evaluated by experts. These are the ad hoc reviewers. They are experts worldwide. We are using all the best scientists in the field. And we are waiting until we have 5 comprehensive reviews to each proposal. Only then we are handling them, those proposals to the next stage. At the next level, your proposal will meet the panels, the review panels. We have generally seven review panels, 7 in Israel, 7 in the United States. Each one of the panels receives the same review, and they are actually evaluating, or they are meeting together in nowadays. They do it through the Zoom system, and they will evaluate their proposals and provide their recommendation. Each country has their own priority, so the rating of the proposals and the priority, what is more important than others, it's being evaluated separate in each country. Only then those 2 lists from each panel is provided to the advisory committee, the technical advisory committee, which consisted out of 10 senior scientists, and their mission is to form one list of priority, which later on they reconcile any difference between the countries, and they decided where your proposal, what would be the rate of your proposal in the whole list, and then the list is being provided to the board for recommendation for funding. Now, what are the criteria that we select your proposal upon? The first one and the most important, the scientific and technical merit. We are appreciating really high scientific merit, technological merit, and we appreciate innovation there. And your proposal is going to be evaluated by these criteria. Another one is feasibility of the objective. Can you really accomplish this research in the given time? And this is something which will shed more light to that. But the ad hoc reviewers, the panelists, and the TAC members, all of them should express their opinion upon these criteria, as well as to other one, anticipated benefit to agriculture and the environment of both countries. So I explained what we meant when we had that environment on our criteria here, and but the benefit to agriculture should be there. This is most important criteria that you have to realize. The last and not least, this is the collaboration arrangement. We are favoring here a true collaboration between the two parties, and we really want to see the collaboration scheme and to see how each every one of the scientists can contribute to the main mission. Now I will handle the more technical details to Chaim. Chaim, please.
Thank you very much, Yoram. It's certainly a pleasure to see so many people interested in applying the BARD. I see a few familiar names, but I also see a lot of new names that I haven't been in contact with. So we're hoping that we'll see a lot of proposals this year. So first, let's talk about who can apply. As Yoram mentioned, for a BARD research grant, the researcher has to be a member of a nonprofit institution, be it a university, government institution, USDA, state, ARS in Israel, or a private nonprofit research institute, for example, the Nobel Institute would be an example of that. You have to be an investigator and standing in that institution where the institution will allow you to submit the proposal. Our process is, we have a somewhat of a reverse process. First, the investigator submits a proposal to BARD, and then after you completed the submission, we send a letter to the research authority of the appropriate institutions, and they and then they approve the submission of the research. We do allow if sometimes there are minor changes that the institution may request, and we do allow for that even if it's after the deadline. And the other issue about who can apply is that we have what's called a concurrent funding policy, which means you can only have one BARD grant at a time. So let me explain this a little more. I have to explain how we classify investigators. We have the PI is the first investigator on the proposal, and the co-PI is the first investigator from the other country that submits. We consider the PI and co-PI as the same status. So you can only have one grant as PI or co-PI. Everybody else on the grant is a collaborator. The collaborating, there's no limit on how many proposals you can collaborate on. The purpose of this is to, if you have some specific expertise, let's say you're a CRISPR expert and somebody needs your help in doing a little gene editing, you won't be penalized for helping them out by not being able to submit a BARD proposal of your own for your own research. You can, which also means that if you can have, if you have a BARD grant, you could submit a grant. You could submit a proposal after your second year, and then it would be accepted the same year that you would be completing the grant, and then you would be able to have some continuation on the grant. There we go. Let me talk a little bit of the grant itself. It's for a maximum of 3 years and a maximum of $310,000 for both sides for the 3 years. The deadline for the grant is September 15th, and the announcement of the grant is either the end of May or the first week of June, depending on when our board of directors is able to meet. Let me get a little bit into the nitty-gritty of the proposal itself. The proposal is submitted online. We open up our online submission form around a month before the submission date, so it'll be around August 15th when we open it up. Most of the grant is submitted in sections of PDF forms. We have the first, we do have, when you go in, there's some forms you have to fill out with the names of investigators, the title of the proposal, the budget details, etc. And then with that information, the system will generate a cover page. The abstract you need to input as text into the website. And with the exception of the budget tables, everything else is in PDF. The research plan itself is limited to 15 pages, including figures. In addition to the 15 pages, you have another 5 pages where you get, you can have the expected results, the timetable, details of cooperation. Cooperation is also very important, as Yoram mentioned. One of the purposes of BARD is to foster the cooperation between the U.S. and Israeli scientists. So this is a very important part of the proposal, that the research would be is benefited by having the cooperation as opposed to everybody doing their own work. And not necessarily benefiting the work of the project together. And we also ask that you write whatever the data management plan is for the proposal. All that's in 5 pages. The bibliography is whatever you cited in your proposal. I would like to note that we do not accept number format as a bibliography. You need to have author and year for your citations within the proposal. This is to make it easier for our reviewers to read the proposal. Whatever makes it easier for the, any proposal that's easier for the reviewers to read is beneficial to the investigators who write the proposal. The CVs are limited to 2 pages per investigator. And then we have a description of the budget and letters of cooperation. What's referring to here is that the letters are for services that need to be rendered for your proposal, where you mentioned that you need somebody to perform a given analysis. They can write a letter instead of just stating that they agreed to do the analysis. We do not accept letters that are general support of the proposal, and unless the person has the person has to have a specific task in benefit in doing something on a proposal. Okay, there are 4 types of proposals one can say. Well, of course, there's a new proposal, which doesn't need much explanation. Continued proposal is a continuation of a BARD grant. In a continued proposal, you get an extra 2 pages to describe what your accomplishments were in that grant, and the list of publications that came out of that grant. Revised proposals, the grant which was not successful, and then you want to resubmit it. You can resubmit the proposal once. After that, you need to take a little different approach in order to submit again. Also, in this proposal, you get an additional 2 pages to describe how you change the proposal and address the comments of the reviewers. You will. I always give advice that if you're the best way to do it is to thank the reviewers for their insightful comments, and then you explain how you change your proposal to meet their comments, or you can disagree to a certain extent. The ones of the revisions that are less successful spend all their time arguing with the reviewers in the 2 pages, and usually that's not extremely well received. Then we have a 1-year feasibility study. Yoram will mention it shortly, that if you have a good idea but not good enough preliminary data, you can submit a proposal for 1 year. Of course, BARD is, as we said, is about cooperation and partnership. If you would like to find a partner, we mostly find Israeli partners for U.S. scientists, but sometimes we can also find U.S. partners for Israeli scientists. You can send me an email with your brief CV, an abstract of your research idea, and a description of the ideal partner's expertise. And we will use our somewhat extensive network to try to find someone available to partner with you. We have been fairly successful in finding partners. We have about a 70 to 80% success rate in our matchmaking, which I guess if we had a marriage business, that would be very good. So I just would also like to remind you that if you have questions, don't forget you can put it in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer further. I'll now hand it over to Yoram, who will talk about how to write a successful proposal.
Thank you very much, Chaim. We decided to bring here some comments that we received over the years, to share them with you and try to explain what those comments were meant. And this kind of a general, I start with general comments, general criticism. Some people think that, that they tend to forget, some scientists tend to forget that they have some limitation. We have only 3 years, and the budget is not that much, and they tend to elaborate and promise too much. And then, of course, the criticism is that that proposal is too ambitious, and you cannot do much with that. Nothing about the quality, but the quantity is too much. The same goes to the other comment, which is too vague. Sometimes we tend to think that everyone knows the topics, and we go ahead and describe the work that should be done. But in matter of fact, we are not paying attention to the other parameters or the other criteria, and then the reviewers say that it's too vague. The same goes to lacking or unfounded hypotheses. We are very much deep into describing our research, and we forget to set up right away a very obvious hypothesis that should be stated. The reviewers, or some of the ad hoc reviewers, should see the hypothesis. Some of them are they are expert in their field, but they don't know nothing about agriculture. So the hypothesis should be there, tied very well to agriculture. Lacks meaningful collaboration. As I mentioned before, we mind collaboration very much. We really want to see that the project is being carried jointly. Sometimes you find a kind of project that one of the group is overriding another one, and most of the work is being done in one of the countries and not by the other scientists in the other country. You should make sure that this general type of a comment will not distract or will not interfere with your project to be on the top of the list. Unfocused, unclear objectives. The objectives should be very, very clear and focused. And again, this is something that you should make sure when you are submitting your proposal to read it again and see if it's actually clear and understood. I'll go to more kind of a technical comments that we get from time to time. The research problem. The research problem should be very clear. It can be, as I mentioned before, it should be, first of all, something which is relevant, a problem which is relevant to agriculture. It can later on be dealt with more basic technology or science, but it should be connected. So the research problem should be a real agricultural problem. Feasible objective. Then it's very important also not to forget that you have to fulfill that assignment in a given time, and the objective should be feasible. I mean, you can really carry them and reduce them to practice and get the expected result. I mentioned the hypothesis. The hypothesis should be clear. And here I'm coming to the preliminary result. You should have, you need to have enough data to back up your hypothesis, to back up your approaches. Preliminary results, preliminary information is very, very important. It can be tables or figures that you generate, you summarize your preliminary efforts. It can be also statements which are coming from a previous work which was done by your own group, or maybe some other research that you are depending your next step on previous or existing scientific evidence in the literature. Now more to the technical issues. Here, again, a lot of comments have been stated, and we try to avoid it, to share them with you, about the methodology and procedure. So you can cite the method that you do. If you have some modification, you should say, okay, I'm using that method, and I'm using the modification of that method, and it's very clear. So the ad hoc reviewer should notice exactly if that method would answer the approach or the objectives, the result of this objective. The next important is experimental details and the pitfall. Sometimes you are suggesting a modification of a method or approach which is being adapted from another field, but never carried with your biological material or with your issue. And here we encourage you to take some cautions and to suggest some and to set some pitfall, to identify pitfall steps in a way that, yes, I'm going to use this methodology. If it's not going to work, I will walk it through another direction. I will use another methodology. So please share with the reviewers and the panels the information that it might not work, and if it's not going to work, please how you're going to deal with that and how you'll be able to carry on your research. Again, please make sure that you have a sentence, what are the expected results? Not just the expected results, but how they're being connected to the hypothesis or maybe to agriculture, if they are connected to agriculture, how it can really added on or piled up to the information which has existed already and contribute to our main mission, which is contributing to the agriculture of both countries. Now, last and not least, again, synergistic collaboration, and I mentioned it and I stated before, it should really split up very nicely and show that you have relevant collaboration, a relevant assignment to each one of the parties in your proposal. Last and not least, and this is the feasibility study. Feasibility study is a one-year research which is allowing you to carry your work only for 1 year in order to accumulate more information and to have better preliminary data that you'll be able to apply later on to BARD or to other places. But you have to remember that BARD is appreciating very much innovative ideas. We really want you to bring creative ideas, and we understand that sometimes you don't have the time, the resources really to set up and to show that your creative idea is going to the right direction and would answer that problem. And BARD, as I mentioned before, appreciating feasibility study because it allows you to come up with new ideas and not distract you from BARD because you don't have enough information. Sometimes, and here is it's not very common, but sometimes the panel would recommend on a feasibility study. And if that would be the situation, the panel would suggest a set of experiments that you have to carry during that year in order to convince the panel that you can go to the next level of the next year. Of course, you need to summarize that year, and and then you can apply for a second year of funding from BARD. Again, just to let you know that we are pushing very much feasibility study. I think with that, we gave you a lot of information how we see or how you should handle the proposal. If you have more questions about it, please remember that we have a lot of information on our website. And if you wrote during this session some question, we'll try to answer them right now. We have enough time to answer several questions. And I promise you that any question that will be asked, you'll be able to receive a response from us in a couple of days. Now I am handling the session to Judith, and she is going to shed more light on a couple of other opportunities that we have on our funding portfolio. Please, Judith.
So I'd like to mention a couple of other opportunities that we have. We have the postdoctoral fellowship program, which is for American students to come to Israel, or for Israelis to go to the U.S. For a duration of up to two years. We have a graduate students fellowship, and we also have an opportunity to apply for international workshops. The funding for these three opportunities is all available on our website, and the deadline is January 18th, 2021. And we have an exciting new opportunity that I want to discuss. I already saw that some people were asking about private companies and how private companies can work with BARD. So there's an opportunity called BLeaver, which is the Academia to Industry Partnership, where a BARD recipient can, on the second year of the grant, ask for a company either from the U.S. or from Israel to join and help commercialize the research. This program runs together with the Israel Innovation Authority and USDA-NIFA. And there's an opportunity for researchers to work with private companies and to take their research to the next level. Now, okay. I think we'll give some time to answer some of the questions we have here. Hi, we have a question here about how many co-PIs and how many collaborators can be on a proposal.
Yeah, okay, let me just I'll explain it again because it can be a little bit confusing. There's one co-PI and one PI per proposal. So the PI is from one country, let's say it's from the United States, and the co-PI would be from Israel and vice versa. Everybody else is called a collaborator. You can have as many collaborators as you want on a given proposal. I did also see a question about limitation for collaborators. We do, collaborator is considered a collaborator if they get less than $20,000 per year for the proposal. Otherwise, their classification would be considered as PI or co-PI. What one can, I'm not quite sure what you exactly meant there, but one can't submit more than one proposal to BARD as a PI or co-PI. But due to our concurrent funding policy, you only get one proposal. And if you submit several proposals with different partners, we will inform the partner that you submitted several proposals and that only one of those proposals will be accepted.
I have another question of technology transfer company of a university applied for funding.
Well, unfortunately, the TTO office, the Technology Transfer Office, is not a research entity in our case. So we will need to tie in a specific collaboration, which means, of course, we understand that someone will carry the work in the lab, and this is not the TTO himself or herself. So we really want to see they can be on the project, but we need to know who is really carrying the load, and this is something which is mandatory here. We need to have in the academia partners from academic institutions.
Another question here: how many projects are funded per year?
In the Believer, we don't have right now on the Israeli side. You have to understand. If you read the details in our website, you will see that the Israeli partner is receiving the budget from the Israel Innovation Authority, while the American part is going to receive the money or to compete in the how do you call them? SBIR program. So there is no here the rules of the SBIR here, the rules of the SBIR standing and the rules of the Israel Innovation Authority. By the way, you can get from both funding sources simultaneously, unless the objective for each one of the agencies will not be the same. Which means you have a big project which deals with breeding, and also you're bringing some marketing phase to this. So one country or one company in one of the countries deals with biological issues, and the other party or the other company deals with marketing and providing that product to the customer. And this can be actually be done parallel.
Feasibility studies that are asked, are they evaluated together with the regular submission, or they have different implementations?
No, all the proposals are allocated together in one group. So the committees will rank the proposals in their review committees. And those all the plant, the crop production proposals. And if there are feasibilities they like, they'll put them on the top, or if they don't like them, they'll put them on the bottom. The budget limitation is a third of the budget limitation for a full proposal.
But the TAC committee will consider.
Right. The TAC, as you saw the process, you have the committees make their recommendation. We have as Yor mentioned, there are parallel committees. So each, the U.S. committee and the Israeli committee both make recommendations in the same panel independently. That goes to a technical advisory committee, which consists of 10 members, 5 Israelis and 5 Americans. And then if there are disagreements between the 2 committees as to the priority of the funding, they will reconcile those differences and also reconcile differences between the different panels and come up with a portfolio for all of the BARD proposals.
I have here a question about the funding. How is it divided between the different COPI and COPI?
We do not get involved in the how the funding is divided. The scientists decide how they want to divide the funding. As you saw in the previous slide, the aggregate of all the BARD proposals is very close to 50-50. I think there's a couple percentage points in favor of the Israeli scientists, but we do not have a requirement as to how the money is divided. That's the COVID-19 question.
For all of those who asked, yes, this webinar is recorded and we'll be able to share it within the week on our website. So if you want to share it with friends, or if you want to post it or share it with other colleagues, we'll be able to do that. So, we also have a question about our nutrition and obesity as part of NEPA topics. Do we accept proposals on those topics?
I don't know how you got the hints, but we still don't have a formal call for a proposal that deals with food and nutrition. This is something that we are planning to the future. Probably we may hear more about it before the end of the year. But yes, nutrition and obesity is something which is very important. We really want to expand our interest to that too, to try to solve some of the issues. And we are still waiting to some administrative decisions. And when we have more information and this project will come to reality, we will announce it separately. And it's still not active. It will be. I hope that it will be ready before the end of the year.
I have a question here about COVID-19 related research that you mentioned. Is there a need to show preliminary data? Or what type of preliminary data do you ask for?
Okay. So it's very clear that due to the pandemic, BARD had to be sensitive to this issue, and it is decided that we are not going to fund COVID-19 issues which are relevant by itself, but things which are relevant to agriculture and would stand in our criteria, which means we'll have scientific data and some preliminary evidence that the suggested objective would actually lead to a solution that was identified. Again, it will stand in the same criteria, but it will receive more attention. We don't have a separate fund for COVID-19. We just more sensitive to that, and we should respond to the need. And if there is something which can be accomplished through our program, we'll be very happy to support it. But it should stand in the criteria of BARD, which I mentioned
just before. And if something is there, I'm encouraging you to do that.
I have a question here about the same objectives tested in both countries. So the person asking here says in the soil scientists, and the soil is different in the U.S. and in Israel, changes depending on geography. How does the synergetic collaboration mean that we have to test the same thing in both countries?
Well, usually we understand that some conditions, some differences. We have some different environmental conditions and geographically and topographically, it's influenced by different ways. If you have a different soil and you think to believe that the major factor in your phenomena is the type of soil, you should probably carry the same experiment in both countries. But if you think that the salinity or the electric conductivity of the soil is the main factor, then you can